Hi folks, and today on my long run, I finally had an opportunity to try out a product called Maurten. This is the gel. They also make, actually their claim to fame is with a liquid type fuel. It is a fuel for running, biking, whatever you want to use your fuel for. If you haven't heard of Maurten, they're relatively new. I started hearing about them maybe the spring or summer of 2018 was about the first time I heard about them. It's become enormously popular. Kipchoge was using that when he set the world record for the marathon, which of course gave them a real big boost up. And I always, like to try new things. So I said, well, let's take a look and see what Maurten is like. I just did the gel. I did not do the drink, and that is kind of their claim to fame is with the drink. The reason that they just came out with the gel is the drink is fine. But if you're an elite and you've got a table set up for your drinks, that's really great. But if you're the everyday runner, it can be very inconvenient to carry little jugs around with you. And some races flat won't even allow that and take that. So they've also come out with a gel as well. So first of all, it's an energy product. Here are some of the things that are proclaimed to be the benefits. One is that you can tolerate it better than you can most because it's not really like a traditional gel. It's been reformulated in its entirety, and you can tolerate more of it. So most people can tolerate somewhere between 30 and 90 grams of carbohydrates in an hour. Actually, very, very few people can get up to 90. Most people are going to have trouble hitting much more than 40 or 45 without some level of distress in the stomach. They claim that with their product that you can more readily take up to 90 grams an hour, which is a heck of a lot of carbohydrate if you need to, because you're able to tolerate it better. You don't need any water. So traditional gels, as you know, you take that gel, you have to take water with it either right before or right after because it's pretty much concentrated carbohydrate and you're reliquefying it. You do not need to take water with this. Now, that doesn't mean you don't drink water or stay hydrated in the race, but there's no need that you're timing it, getting your water and it at the same time. It has double the energy if we're talking about the drink. The gels themselves have 25 grams of carbohydrate. That's pretty typical for the gels. Their drinks have pretty much double the energy we would normally get, which is why that was their claim to fame. You get a lot of energy out of those. And they also claim that it's ready faster. So it's going to get into your system and give you fuel a little bit faster. They've got a host of other things that they talk about with benefits, but those for me were the hard ones. Now here's some things I consider kind of neutral. It's like jelly. And what I mean by that is not jam, jelly. Think grape jelly. If somebody put jelly and stuck it in a foil packet, that's what you're getting. It's a very, very different texture than a gel is. So that's neutral. You might hate that. You might love that. There's no real flavor. I mean, there is a taste to it, but it's a very neutral thing. There's not a taste. It also means you can't go get a caramel macchiato Maurten gel. They're all pretty much the same. It's relatively flavorless, but there is a flavor. There's nothing extra in it. The gels are just carbohydrate with a little bit of sodium. It's actually a pretty small amount and nothing else. Now, that's pretty typical of most gels, but some other gels come with caffeine. Some other gels add a little bit of electrolytes in there, if I could say it, electrolytes. But those aren't in there. This is just your carbohydrate and a little bit of sodium. The drink has quite a bit of sodium in it. And the packet size is kind of neutral. So as you can look at this, it's a lot longer and more narrow than a typical gel. So depending how you carry gels, it may be easier to carry, it may be harder to carry, it may be a net no difference. And then from a disadvantage standpoint, well, ka-ching, this stuff is expensive. Now, I'm not going to get into the pricing on the liquid because it's very hard to compare that because there aren't a lot of other liquid ones out there. But if you're going to use, say, 6 gels in a marathon, you're probably going to pay roughly $6. It's about $1 a packet for those. If you get 6 Maurtens, they're about $3.50 a piece. You're going to spend a little bit over $20 for those same 6 gels. So that's the really only disadvantage. It is much more expensive than a traditional gel. So how did it go for me today? So today I was running 18 miles. I decided I would take a gel at miles 5, 10, and 15. Now, one thing I guess that's important to note for 18 miles and the pace that I was running today, because pace matters, I typically would have maybe 1 gel, maybe none at all. I probably would take 1 gel for 18. 3 is like overkill, so that's a lot of energy for me. So maybe that matters a little bit with how things felt because I'm not used to taking that much in. But if I want to give this stuff a try, I got to see how it works. And I was taking it at 5, 10, and 15 is what I elected to do. So here's how it was for me, and this is one day. One day does not a pattern make with anything. I did think I felt the kick. So at about 5.5 miles, 10.5 miles, so about a half a mile or so after I took it, I did feel like it gave me a little bit of a kick. Did it really give me a kick, or was I expecting that because they claim that happens? Or is it because I was taking all this gel when I might not normally take that? So it's hard to say, but I did feel like I got a little bit of a kick. The jelly was okay. I mean, at first I thought the jelly texture was just, I didn't know if I could acclimate to it, if you will. By the time I got to the third one, I took one on a bike ride the other day, so my fourth overall. The jelly wasn't too bad. I was expecting it now. It was usually not that big of a deal. And I kind of grew to like the taste, non-taste. Like is probably the wrong word, but not dislike it. The taste wasn't all that big of a deal. Here's what I'm really curious about, though. I wonder how it would be in miles 20 to 26. And I wonder about a drink chaser before the race, because the drink is what people really talk about. So one thing I'd like to do is try the drink before a race and then some of this in there. And the reason I say the miles 20 to 26 is, as you may or may not know, the deeper you get into the marathon, the harder it is for your body to digest and take in the fuel that you have. So I usually recommend that people go a little bit heavier on gels early in the marathon and depend more on Gatorade or sports drink or something later in the marathon, because it's liquid, it's going to get through your system faster. You don't digest things as well. Since this does get into your system more quickly, since it's all tolerated a little bit better, I wonder if miles 20 to 26 might be able to take a little more gel than typical. But the only way to really find that out, other than doing a 26-mile long run, which I'm not about to do, is actually trying that out in the marathon. One other thing I should point out when I talk about tolerating it, I'm really a bad example for telling you how you might tolerate this, because I've been very lucky. I've yet to have anything that upsets my stomach. I can take just about any, gels, liquids, all that stuff. It's never bothered me. But that's not true. It's very, very common for a lot of people to really have to search for something that they're able to take. So if you are struggling to find a fuel that will work for you, then it's worth the experiment to get some and see whether or not this is something that you could tolerate. So the big question, of course, right now is this worth $12 more in a marathon for me than what the gels would be? Well, the jury is still out. I just don't know that yet. Just because I felt a little more kick, well, big deal. I think I was getting what I needed from the other ones anyway. And one day is too much or not enough time to determine a test. And of course, the big question is you, because whether it worked for me or not, the question is, does it work for you? So I'm going to continue to play with this. As I said, I've got the Gate River Run coming up in a few weeks. I wouldn't typically do gels at all for that, and I still won't. It's only a 9-mile race. But I'll probably try taking some of the liquid before the race just to see how I tolerate, how does that work. When I get to a 20-miler, I'll probably try some of the drink ahead of time and try some of the gels. So I'm going to continue to play with it, because the fact is, if it does a better job fueling, and success in the marathon is all about making sure that you can be fueled, then it's probably worth the $12 to me. So time will tell.